TheMesh.tv, an online network of original free audio and video shows based out of Western North Carolina, reaching the entire world. Listen and watch through iTunes or through the website TheMesh.tv.
What's up, Internet? Welcome back to the RealTailgate.com College Football Hangout, sponsored by Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue. Log on to RealTailgate.com for promotions, a list of locations, archived editions of this hangout, and download the RealTailgate.com College Football Podcast. Stop by any location and pick up the Tailgate Special, because it's just not a tailgate without the barbecue, and it's just not ACC football without Mike London losing to David Cutcliffe. We'll get into that in a minute. Let's meet our team here, guys. Brian Barber from Tar Heel Blog.
Hey, I'm really looking forward to the official ACC explanation on the 3rd and 1 play from Jim Young.
Hayes Permar from the David Glenn Show, ACCSports.com, Serious Sports, multiple platforms, distribution.
Thanks for having me, guys. Also here with me, Orlando Calrissian and Little Penny, and JP Monday. I got your trucker ACC Digital Network hack right here. Get some.
Jim Young, editor of ACCSports.com and director of officiating.
Yeah, and speaking of refs, JP, if you think Wake has any shot at all of ruining Miami's perfect record before Florida State next week, you are sadly mistaken.
And JP Monday from SB Nation's blogger, So do you?
I'm stunned that I'm already getting picked on for being the Wake Forest guy this early. But I put the kids' college fund on Wake this week. Was that a bad idea?
Little old Wake Forest. All right, Sean Kress from Bottom of the Pile podcast, who's apparently stuck in last Wednesday.
Well, I had such a good show last Wednesday, and then we had the production problem, so I was just going to reuse all my jokes. So I'm making a list of my partners, and I'm getting Zero Dark Thirsty.
Stop.
I'm your host, Ben Swain. Our technical producer is Talking Moose Media. Let's talk some football, guys. All right, so the ACC game of the century, not a lot of drama. Florida State absolutely destroyed Clemson in Death Valley. Was this more about Clemson pulling a Clemson, or was this FSU being that good? Jim Young.
Do you want me to be SEC guy here and explain this, or do you want me to be ACC guy here and explain this? Because if I'm an SEC guy explaining it, then clearly Florida State can't be that good, so if Florida State wins by that many points, then it must be Clemson and Clemson. But no, I don't know. Watching that game, I just felt like Florida State was just a juggernaut. I don't know. Maybe I'm too lenient on Clemson, and certainly fumbling on the first play of the game is sort of a Clemsoning move. But to me, I always associate Clemsoning. To me, Clemsoning would have been beating Florida State and then going to Maryland and losing that game. To me, that's sort of Clemsoning. Getting just blown out by a better team doesn't qualify.
What do you think, Hayes?
Yeah, Clemson. If getting beat badly by another team or Clemsoning, that would be the South Carolina game every year under Dabo, right? But I'm not sure. I was a little confused when you were talking about the ACC game of the century. I thought we were talking Miami, Florida State. I mean, that's the biggest game in the ACC in years. I can't even think of one that comes close.
A matchup of unbeatens. I mean,
unbeatens, the two Florida teams. I mean, that's the ACC game of the century. I guess you guys are looking backwards on this weekend. Yeah, I was surprised, but I wouldn't call it a Clemsoning. No Clemsoning.
Anybody think this was about Clemson just being Clemson?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that was absolutely a dominant performance by Florida State. Clemson is losing to, no offense, JP, but losing to Wake Forest after you just got done winning a game you were supposed to, and then you need to win this game to really establish yourself as the ACC's best team, and you go out there and lose by, a field goal because Taj Boyd throws 6 interceptions or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a Clemsoning. What surprised me most about the game was you had Clemson didn't handle their first taste of adversity very well at all. They got hit in the mouth and then just never responded in a positive manner for the entire game. It just seemed like an avalanche just rolled downhill.
Yeah, I'm going to make it unanimous. I would have bet $8,000 that Clemson would have been more competitive in that game. But the story of the night had nothing to do with Clemson. It was that Florida State was that dominant.
But I do think we all can agree that if these teams played 10 more times, they would split 5-5, right?
Yeah, what's up with that comment, guys?
I mean, I get what he's trying to do. I mean, he's trying to build his team up and let them know, hey, I still think you're a really good team. But I don't know if saying something that's kind of borderline delusional like that is really a good move. I'm honestly not sure.
Well, isn't there a way you can say that honestly? I mean, let's say it can't happen, obviously, but if Clemson and Florida State were to meet in the ACC championship game, Clemson could still win that game. And if Dabo says, hey, if we play him again, we could win, but if we play him 10 times, it's 5-5, come on, man.
It would have been, well, would you have liked it if he had said, like, if we play them 10 more times, we could win at least twice?
We might be able to cover.
I think he's going with your logic. I think he's going with your logic, Swain. Is he saying if we played them again, we could beat them? And he's not crazy to say that. I wouldn't put $8,000 on him. But I do think that stuff is falling off my table over there.
I'll step in and say it easy.
Sorry. Hold on. We'll be back.
Well, I think if they just played Florida State at home in Death Valley. Oh, wait a minute, they did. Okay, never mind.
Let's be fair to Taj, guys. He lost money allegedly on the NFL. He wasn't betting on this game. But let's talk about the other quarterback, Jameis Winston. Have we ever seen a guy like this in the ACC in any sport? I'm going to take that as a no. I mean, I got no answers.
Well, in any
think,
sport, I don't know. I mean, I think David Thompson, from what I understand, was pretty solid as a freshman, but that was freshman team stuff. So, I mean, I don't think we've seen anybody like him in football that I can think of that just comes in and is immediately, the best player in the conference. I don't recall anybody kind of this precocious and not just on the field, but you saw him in the stuff they did in the locker room before the game. I mean, he's the leader of that team already. That's not something I've seen before.
In any sport,
he does it in a likable way, right? It's not like a Christian Laettner that comes in and is just the jerk, right? I mean, everybody loves Jameis right now. Is that what you're thinking?
Absolutely, yeah. He's part of the benefit is that he hasn't played a lot of games, so we don't have a lot of dirt on him yet. So, yeah, he's done nothing wrong. What's there not to like with Jameis Winston? As far as other sports, the only one I can think of that's this likable and this good, this fast, maybe Mia Hamm in women's soccer.
I never played women's soccer, so I'm not qualified to speak on that. But, JP Monday, are we going to start hating this guy at some point?
I don't know. I think that's largely up to Jameis Winston. If he decides to do a personality change over the off season and become this despicable guy, or if it, what I keep on thinking about in regards to him is how the media turned on Peyton Manning. But as he got just so hyped by the time he was a senior and Tennessee started their Heisman campaign, the media was kind of done with it and went on to Woodson and other guys. So, but I really don't see. I don't see a point where the fans and media are going to start hating this guy.
Well, that's not how it works, right? It's not up to him if we like him or not. It's up to the media to dig up whatever narrative they want to.
Well, maybe he should spend some time with Cam Newton in the offseason working on his sideline demeanor, so he could be right there.
He's already a way better quote than Cam Newton. But let's talk about Jameis this week. He's got NC State 32-point favorites. Are they covering that spread, guys?
I'll put it for this point. In the NFL, 32 points. Even that Jacksonville one, what was that at? 30, somewhere around there. In the NFL, a spread that big, I always take it. 32 at Florida State. I mean, if it were at State, I might. But the 32 points. When they're putting up those kind of numbers, I'm not betting against Jameis Winston. Especially, I want to see his pregame speech first. I need his pregame speech before I get my bet in to see what kind of action he's bringing.
And obviously, Hayes is speaking purely on recreational terms here when it comes to betting and that sort of stuff. But I think
I asked about the point spread. What am I going to answer?
I think they cover simply because they're in the hunt now. And so it's not just a matter of FSU taking care of business against NC State. They got to take care of business by a wide margin. That's actually important in this whole, in the framework of the whole thing. So I don't think they're gonna, call off the dogs on NC State if they get up big.
That's exactly right. If they have another game like they did against Boston College earlier this season, that's going to hurt them now. They've got more to play for now. So I think that they have to. I mean, they're going to do what they did against Clemson in the fourth quarter, and they're going to just put the pedal to the metal and just keep piling on.
Brian, what do they have to do to stay in front of Oregon in the BCS race?
Based on what I've read, it's going to be hard because Oregon's going to play Stanford and UCLA, and I think we're kind of caught in a position where the team's already slotted. They've already slotted Alabama 1. They've slotted Oregon 2. So you're going to get to this thing where Oregon or Alabama's going to have to lose probably for them to actually get up there into that title game, and that's the kind of the stupidity of the system, where people decided before the season that these two teams are the best two teams in the country, and there's no room for Florida State to sneak in there unless Florida State unless they go beat everyone the rest of the season by 40 or 50 points, then maybe you may see something, but it's going to be hard for them, I think so.
So FSU is actually second in the BCS rankings, and Oregon's third, but the margin is really slim. So, JP, what do you think they have got to do to stay in front of Oregon?
Oregon has to lose, or they're going to have to take care of business, like Brian was saying. They're going to have to get beat State by 40 points. They're going to have to come to Winston-Salem and take care of business this very same way, and that's all very doable. If they can keep rolling at the pace they're doing right now, they can be in the hunt. But Oregon, I think, is going to have to, given the schedule they play and just given their team speed and what the rest of the country thinks about them already, I think Oregon's probably going to have to lose if they both win out.
But here's a question there. Say they go out and they roll to the ACC. How much of the old ACC narrative of this is just the ACC is going to crop up and hurt them?
It's kind of funny because typically you're talking about this in relation, the ACC to the SEC, but now the fact that the Pac-12, I don't know if it's as much the ACC's less than stellar rep as it is the Pac-12 this year has a very, very good rep. So wins over UCLA and wins over Stanford, if Oregon gets those, are what's going to vault them ahead of Florida State. And Florida State, there's not, that Miami game, it's, joking around with JP, but it's pretty important to the ACC that Miami go into that Florida State game and be unbeaten, so that if we follow this whole hypothetical out, Florida State beating Miami then means more. But I think the Pac-12's overall reputation is going to be hard for Florida State to overcome.
If Florida State beats Miami, how many ACC games of the century do they have to win to get in a national title game? They would also still play Florida, who I don't know what they're doing this year, but they're an SEC team, so that usually counts for something, right? And
I think they lost to West Forsyth last week.
That can't be true. I know that. And then, but then they're going to get hopefully maybe a really well-respected Virginia Tech defense who's maybe still around the top 25 and doesn't drop any dumb games, or Miami again in the ACC championship game. So there's a chance for them to beef up their schedule too. It's not just all Wake Forest and NC State from here on out.
Wow. It's just kind of a weird situation. Jim, have you ever seen it? Florida State not only has to win big, but Miami has to win to keep the league buoyed, and Clemson has to keep winning to keep the league buoyed.
Hold on.
I can't remember anything like that.
Not in this league, because we're not usually in the national title hunt, so we don't have to worry about these sort of things. But in general, I think that stuff does. It's just the nature of the BCS and the way it works. Is you not only want to win, but you want the team, the opponents that you're playing to be as good as possible, and then the teams that you beat, you want them to keep on winning as well.
What is it? 2 of the last 3 years we've had 2 teams in the BCS.
Come again?
Isn't that right? Wasn't last year the first time in 3 years that the ACC didn't have 2 teams in BCS bowls? And they had Clemson and
last year
last year it was last year was 1 team.
It was the year before when didn't Virginia Tech randomly get into one.
Oh, yeah.
Clemson and Virginia Tech got into the Sugar Bowl, yeah.
And then wasn't there another year as well, or was that it?
I think that's it.
Virginia
lost by 1,000 points.
The Tailgate Special from Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue. It's 8 pieces of chicken, a pint of barbecue, any 2 sides, 2 dozen hush puppies, and a whole gallon of tea. Just go to realtailgate.com for details, coupons, and a list of locations that open early on game day.
All right, so that NC State game this weekend, Dave Doran announced that Brandon Mitchell is going to be under center for the Wolfpack. He should be sitting at home in Raleigh watching this weekend, waiting for UNC, right, guys?
No, you've got to start. If he's healthy, you've got to start him. You can't be afraid of Florida State. I mean, you've got to. If he's ready to go, you've got to put him out there. You don't rest him or have him dodge Florida State. They're not that good. They're not that much better than everybody else.
I disagree. You see, I mean, we've seen NFL teams doing it. We're not sure if you could go Christian Ponder. You still might be hurt. Let's see, Josh. Oh, Josh Freeman might be hurt. And I think we're about to see it in the NBA with, Nerlens Noel, I think you need a little bit more rest. I think you save them for the games that matter. I don't know if you want the psyche of a Florida State beat down on them, but
I think logic tells you that you rest him, but I think Sean's right. I just don't think you can run a football team scared, even though I think you have every right to be scared of Florida State right now. And there's a lot more to play for NC State if they can keep Brandon Mitchell healthy in the second half of the season. I just don't think it's a good signal to send to your team to be like, you know what, we're gonna have him sit out and Pete Thomas, you be cannon fodder this week.
Well, it would not be unprecedented for people to throw walk-ons to the Wolves in Tallahassee, right? I think we've seen that in basketball. But seriously, we talk about momentum, and Hayes brought this up. If State loses at Florida State, no big deal. They get to come back and they get to compete against UNC. If they get annihilated at Florida State and Brandon Mitchell is injured and they got to go back to Pete Thomas against UNC, they're going to lose that game, and then they're done for the rest of the year. Isn't it worth salvaging a bowl season instead of just trying to go sell out and not lose so badly to Florida State?
I mean, who did he get hurt against the first time? He got hurt against Richmond. Holding him out isn't going to guarantee that he's going to stay healthy anyway. You can get hurt at any time in football.
Hey, isn't it Florida State, I think maybe their women's soccer team, who famously didn't send their A squad up to an ACC tournament game up here in the Triangle?
That is correct.
I think this is a great time to just go ahead and pay that right back down the line. And I think an extra week of practice for UNC is exactly what NC State should be thinking about right now. So just say, find us, baby. We're pulling an FSU women's soccer, and we're sending you a team. Oh yeah, I mean, teams do that all the time. They pay $1 million to have some teams show up and just play the band and send
them the Lambda Chi.
Absolutely, absolutely, do it.
That would be some pretty high entertainment value if Swofford find NC State for something like that. I mean, be like 60 pages on Pack Prod of their hatred of Swofford.
That's the other part is force him to do something. It's a lose for you. If you don't find us, you look like a clown. If you come out, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this to us. They'll be looking for whatever the find that the FSU women's soccer team got. NC State will be like, we want just exactly what they got, whatever that was. Although did their coach get suspended? I think that Swofford was not happy about that.
They got some penalty. I can't remember what it was because Florida State people were obviously mad at me about the whole thing. I do remember that.
But I think there is precedent, guys. I mean, you look at C.J. Brown, you look at Sean Renfrey last year. Tallahassee's kind of the place where quarterbacks go to get concussions. I'd be worried if I'm NC State.
I mean, I do. I think it's a tricky situation. I mean, it's a legit, and it was Louisiana Tech, Sean. But whatever, Louisiana Tech, Richmond. You can get hurt in any game, but I would definitely think your likelihood would increase when you're playing bigger, faster, stronger guys that are going to hit you harder, which is the case with Brandon Mitchell. And not only that, bigger, faster, stronger guys that are mad because they lost to you last year and screwed up their season. So it's a tricky situation because there's not much to gain, I don't think, for Brandon Mitchell playing. But I just don't know if you're a coach and you're worried about your locker room and you're trying to get the good old buy-in from your team. If you say, you know what, we're punting this game, guys, and you go ahead, Pete Thomas, just try to see what you can do, but I'm not really worried about it. I mean, heck, why should Dave Dorn even show up?
Not to mention the message it sends to your new boss.
Yeah. I don't know if WL goes for that sort of thing. I kind of doubt she would.
Why don't we compromise and let NC State play with Daniel Evans down at FSU? Somebody they know they'll have a fighting chance with. Doesn't hurt long term for the season.
I'm sure he's got eligibility left at this point, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm fine.
One other thing about Florida State, I don't know if you guys knew this, but they have this thing there called the Sod Cemetery.
By the way, when I made that sort of sarcastic comment about it, I must have gotten 20 tweets back explaining me patiently what the sod cemetery was. Like I honestly didn't know. I'd never heard of it.
Hold on. I've got one that was worse than that. I think it may have been an NFL game, but it may have been a college football game. Tell me if anybody else saw this. An announcer was describing. Somebody had, the keep calm and do whatever meme, whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody was describing a coach having that sign and said it was this slogan from wherever the original history was, and acting as if nobody would know what keep calm and whatever was, and explain this whole thing that this coach had used. It was just a real message to just buckle down and be together. And I was like, dude, somebody's got to get in his ear and be like, everybody knows keep calm and whatever. But yeah, sod cemetery. I would actually if I go to FSU, if I'm at FSU, I'd put top 5 things that I'd want to visit. Would be the sod cemetery, absolutely.
I also heard.
I don't know enough of things there, but I mean, hands down, that would be one of the 5 things.
It'd be the top 5.
Not really related, but I also heard that Mike London was a cop at one point before
yeah.
he was a coach. Well.
He might be a cop again next year. We'll have to see about that.
Wow.
Is it just that Florida State fans are humorless? Because I threw out our friend Corey Clark, Tallahassee Democrat, made the statement that Florida State was back, and I answered him and I said Florida State will not be back until they win a major. And I must have gotten maybe 50 responses from Florida State fans like, "Did you not finish your thought?" Or major what? What are you talking about?
They don't understand you, Ben. You're just an artist. You're just above them intellectually.
Genius is never understood in its time.
I was looking for that compliment. Hey, so we talked about Mike London. Let's go there. Does this guy need to be fired?
Not if you're Duke.
Oh, certainly not if you're Duke. But seriously,
I think it's
more impressive: Cutcliffe being 5-1 against Mike London, or Mike London lasting 6 games against David Cutcliffe, going 5-1 against him?
Well, no, he's actually David Cutcliffe is 5-1. He is 3-1 against Mike London because this is Mike London's 4th year.
Okay, so he just owns Virginia.
Yes,
general.
Just Virginia in general. I still don't think he's maybe in as much danger as you would think. He's got a little bit of the Paul Hewitt thing going on. They got a lot of money tied up in contracts there. It would cost a lot of money to not just fire him, but you're firing Tom O'Brien, who's got all that money on his guaranteed contract. You're firing John Tenuta, same thing. I think the administration there is hoping and praying that Virginia can eke out at least another win or two so they can say, okay, when we got these guys who are sophomores and juniors, are going to be juniors and seniors, and next year is the year we're really aiming for. Because if they get so bad and it's 2-10 and they lose by 50 to Virginia Tech and everyone's clamoring, they're just going to have to shell out a ton of money to make a change.
Chris, what do you think?
I don't really hear. I don't listen to a lot of Virginia people, but I don't really hear the outcry coming from Virginia. I hear it coming from North Carolina sports writers. I don't know that he's in that much trouble up there as much as he is just kind of everybody looking in from the outside saying that, oh yeah, there's no way he survives this.
Not to go all UVA wonk, but they're within.
You're wearing the tie, so go for it.
This is the part where we got to keep it clean, right? They're within 12 or 18 months of trying to fire their president and failing at that, like having her reinstated. So if I'm Mike London, I'm pointing to that and be like, "Bring it on, dogs! Like I've seen you try to fire people. Like and I make way more than she does. Like come on, bring it." Bring it. So.
I wouldn't be concerned until I started seeing banners, flying over the stadium, and then I'd be worried then.
Or a cappella groups singing Fire Mike London songs would probably be more Virginia-like, right?
And I'll be checking the Greensboro News and Record to see if there are any front-page ads as well calling for Mike London's job.
A cappella song about Mike London getting fired. All right, I like that. All right.
JP, is this where we need to talk about Virginia being in a much better position to hire an actually good coach, whereas Wake would not be able to?
I frankly don't care as long as whoever it is that fires their coach brings in Lane Kiffin just for the pure entertainment factor. I mean, Virginia won't have any money left if they fire London, so I'm sure Lane would take the UVA job. That would be great. Can you imagine Lane at Media Day? That'd be awesome.
Or Layla.
I'm on the Bobby Petrino bandwagon myself.
Oh, yeah, that's even better.
That was my thought. You fire a cop and you hire Bobby Petrino.
So the whole game is Mike Leach. Do we still have any jobs that we step up for Washington State? I think you're always looking for one of those two. You're looking for a personality.
That
That's
would
the
be
guy the
pretty
Wake
cool.
message boarders would want.
It'd be pretty cool if Virginia had 2 Washington State guys.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
That would be awesome.
Be like Wake Forest and Xavier coaches. It'd be interesting.
And they would be polar opposites in their approach to their respective sports too.
Just a bit.
So let's talk Duke for a second. On the other sideline, is Cutcliffe in trouble if he doesn't make it to a bowl game this year? And if not, should he be?
Because it's happened so many times in Duke's history that they've made bowl games in consecutive years. As a matter of fact, anybody want to take a guess how many times that's happened?
It's never happened.
Never.
No.
Is it not a massive failure of Duke at 5-2 right now with the schedule they've got left? If they don't make a bowl game, is that not just a colossal failure?
Well, it's not really that easy. They have to win this weekend because then November starts, and they don't win in November. So they've only got one shot at this.
You should join the Deacon Club.
Oh, wow.
That's the similar thinking.
Anybody else?
I do think it would be a disappointment just when you've gotten to the 5-2. I mean, because if you're not making a bowl, that means you were losing out 5 in a row, and that's the taste that would be in the mouths of all the Duke football fans out there. So I mean, I think it would be viewed as a disappointment. Colossal failure. I think that may be you talking, Ben, on that one. I don't know that other people. I think most people going into the season thought Duke was probably. I didn't, but I think most people thought they were a 4-8, 5-17, which is they're already there.
I think the worst part will be if they don't make a bowl, they will go into that last game of the season against a terrible North Carolina team and lose with the bowl on the line. I think that's going to be worse than not making the bowl, is the way that they don't make the bowl at this point, going 5-2.
Well, I was kind of hoping Carolina would run off some wins, then we get a 5-6 versus 5-6, and the loser goes home, winner goes to a bowl kind of game.
Winner goes to Shreveport.
Brian, how would you feel about UNC playing the role of spoiler for Duke football?
Well, I think it'd be fun. I mean, it was, and as it turned out, they could have played the role last year if they won that game because Duke didn't win again after that. That was the one game they got, the one win they needed, and they got it, and then they lost the rest of their games. So, I mean, that would probably be. I mean, I hate to sound like like a State fan, but Carolina's reaching a point where it's kind of like, well, just beat State and Duke, and we're okay this season. That's just that's kind of where your feelings at a little bit. Because it's just been a brutal season so far.
What's Cutcliffe's record against UNC?
What has he been there? 5 years?
One and something.
Yeah, one and however long.
Yeah.
So 1-4, I guess.
I think nothing makes his seat hotter to me than that. I mean, 1-4. His job might be on the line in the rivalry game this year. He clearly doesn't take it seriously enough. I mean, that's how we judge coaches around here, right? I mean, if at 1-5. If you couple in a bowl game miss with that, I feel you, Swain.
Hayes, I don't know what you're talking about. Jim Boeheim tells me that Syracuse is Duke's rival now.
Turn up the heat.
My only point, he's not going to get fired, but my point is this: is he gotten to a point where he deserves to be criticized versus deserves to be that guy that, oh, what a wonderful job he's done at Duke, regardless of what the outcome is?
No.
What does he need to do to get there? How many seasons?
Before you criticize, I mean...
He needs to get to the Orange Bowl and then have 4 or 5 losing seasons and have Steve Lobotsky as his offensive coordinator, and then he'll be there.
What's their worst loss this season, Swain?
They don't really, I mean, they got Georgia Tech and Pitt. I mean, the Pitt game was probably... You
can criticize him when he starts losing to NC Central and Memphis, and you know what I mean? I think it's fair to hold him to a standard of when you're playing teams that have more resources and better resources than you do. we don't expect a better than 500 winning percentage against them. When you're playing teams that you have better resources, we do expect you to beat them most of the time. I think that's fair. So, but we haven't seen that in the past couple of years, just the bad loss, really,
I do think he'll be disappointed. I do think if they don't make a bowl, he'll be disappointed. He'll consider it a failure. He may not admit it, but I think he will.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been expecting to make a bowl for the last 4 years running, so I could definitely see that. If they hadn't made a bowl last year, I think we would be in that territory right now because he had been for the previous year saying this is the year we're going to make a bowl, and if they didn't make it last year, but that buys him time. It makes it sound like this. I don't know anybody that's right now feeling impatient about David Cutcliffe, except Ben. Are you feeling that way?
No.
You about ready to take up an airplane over Wallace Wade?
Absolutely not.
He was at halftime on Saturday.
Jim, go ahead.
Well, think about this, guys. What if Duke beats State, beats Carolina, beats Wake Forest, wins 8 games, and then next year wins 4 games? What does the fan base do then? I mean, I think he gets a pass, right? He should.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's over for a 4-win season. All right, I got a question. I was thinking about this. What if they did that, like you said, beat State, beat UNC, and what if ECU beats State?
You gotta have Duke ECU in a bowl game.
Don't you have to? Isn't that the whole point of having bowl games? Is get like 2 teams with like regional and mutual interest that haven't played together. Like, oh man, let's get together. Don't you have to make that happen?
And you got to make it happen in the Belt Bowl, I think.
Can't you do it in the Military Bowl, maybe?
Nah, but you got to have it in Charlotte so you can have the state championship
That's
right
not
there.
fair. That's not fair to Duke. That's like you might as well play it in Dowdy-Ficklin. They'd rather play it there.
You think Duke might be like Southern Cal was last year and not show up because they'd be disappointed about being in the Belt Bowl?
Look, I'll leave all the Belt Bowl talk to Swain, but I don't think it's fair to put him back there. You don't go to a bowl. You don't go to a bowl 2 years in a row. That's unfair.
I did it.
I'm sorry, Pitt begs to differ.
I
You
know.
go to the whatever
Unfair.
Compass
It was
Bowl in
unfair,
Birmingham.
Carolina was
unfair. And
Carolina
any fan who
was
said it was
2
unfair
years in a
also
row.
has to now say it's unfair for Duke. You got to send them to the Military Bowl. We'll do it up in D.C. Y'all can come kicking at my place in Georgetown. What up? Dude, Duke ECU in Georgetown or in Indianapolis, wherever they play that thing. It'd be off the chain.
So this is an homage to
I don't think they can
Carlson,
play
then.
there.
Okay.
And what a confluence of fans. You'd have 100% Duke basketball fans in the stadium. And
Just play it in the Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium.
Be
all Duke people then.
I think ECU would prefer to play that game virtually, right? Aren't they the virtual bowl folks? Hey, let's jump around and do a quick parting shot here. Sean Crest.
All right, we had a lot of fun tonight, but I'd like to end on a serious note. Where's my money, Taj? Taj, where's my money?
I'm uncomfortable. Jim Young.
I was not told there would be parting shots here, but I'll just go ahead and take this time to remind people that if you enjoyed the witticisms of myself and Hayes Permar, you can always listen to our Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue podcast as well.
JP Monday.
I had something witty to say, but I think Hayes is taking off clothing. Back to you, Ben.
Permar, what you got?
Hold on. I didn't know there were going to be parting shots
we'll go to Brian. Brian, what do you got, man?
I'm just going to sit back and wait to see what Hayes does. Just forget it.
No, I mean, I wasn't going to do anything crazy. I was just sharing. I did have.
Whoa! Hey, easy there.
They're just I'm just ready for basketball season, guys. So I got my Big Ten Indiana shorts on. So.
That's disgusting.
Let me thank our sponsors real quick before we get shut off here.
I do have pants on. I wanted to prove. I was afraid people would think I did not have pants on, but I do.
Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks to our technical producer, Talking Moose Media. Thank you to our sponsor, Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue, reminding you that it's just not a tailgate without the barbecue. We'll see you next week, guys.
The Tailgate Special from Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue. It's 8 pieces of chicken, a pint of barbecue, any 2 sides, 2 dozen hush puppies, and a whole gallon of tea. Just go to realtailgate.com for details, coupons, and a list of locations that open early on game day.
The Mesh.TV, an online network of original free audio and video shows based out of Western North Carolina, reaching the entire world. Listen and watch through iTunes or through the website themesh.tv.